Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I present to you a king representing the state of South Dakota. He's a founder, real estate syndicator. Whether you're a new real estate to real estate or a second investor, Dustin will be your primary guide to earning a passive income. His entire career is grounded in real estate, from owning a roofing crew to building homes, duplexes, and apartments. Dustin has amassed the experience it is required to successfully integrate development, construction, property management, and asset management into each project. You can get in touch with Dustin at dustin@mailboxmoneyre.com or his phone number, which is 605-691-1933. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Dustin. Hey, Dustin, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, thanks for having me. How are you doing today?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Thanks for sharing your time with me. Honor and pleasure. Dustin, for the people who don't know, like, how many doors do you have in your portfolio at the moment?
About 2,000 that I manage as a GP, and then I'm invested in about 2,000 doors as an LP.
Nice. Talk about a portfolio. Dustin, what can you share with the people? I know you're the backstory, but can you share with the people why you got into multifamily, please, and how you got your first deal?
Sure, Vincent. So I started with my mom on a duplex. So I started building duplex with my mom. The first one, she'd always talked about how she wanted to do some real estate, and then so I asked her one day if she wanted to build a duplex, if she could have one side to rent out and I would live in the other side. And so we bought a lot, cleared all the trees, and built a duplex. And I did most of the building, and I had to go out and ask different contractors how to do certain things, and I just figured it out. It was actually much easier than you think. And being young, people were willing to help me. So anytime I called someone, they were more than willing to help me because they didn't see me as any competition.
Wow, it's funny. It's funny how people can appreciate the underdog until they start taking too much market share. And what was a turning point in your career, Dustin, where your eyes lit up and you realized that this was for you and you could scale this thing up to where you wanted to scale it?
Well, I built a 30-plex in like an adaptive reuse 30-plex where we knocked down a bunch of old buildings right on Main Street. And then we built this really nice modern mixed use building. That was kind of the turning point when I realized that scale was important. And then I had to figure out how to properly scale, because I thought scaling was building as much stuff as I could. So I would be building affordable housing, flips, remodels. We would flip apartments, we would develop apartments. So we were doing everything in the real estate industry that we could do in our area, rather than focusing on one niche, which is now multifamily. And then I found a syndication conference and learned all about syndication. It totally opened my eyes. And when I learned about syndication, once I learned about the process, I was like, this is it. And it was like eye-opening.
For Dustin, so there's some people that might not know what syndication means. I know you're just getting the financing, but can you just walk us through what a syndication deal looks like to you in 2024?
Yeah, syndication is simply putting a group of people together to do a deal. That's really all that syndication means. And I was doing JV deals, which is joint venture. So on a joint venture deal, you get about 3 to 5 people together, and you figure it out with your resources. With a syndication, you might have 100 people in there because you get lots of individual investors. Then you have a few more partners because you have people guaranteeing the debt. You have people that are helping to raise the money. You have people that are operating the deal. You have people that are marketing the deal. You have people that are doing the construction on the deal. So you can have a whole bunch of different partners that all come together to operate the deal in a syndication, and then you raise a lot of money from a lot of different investors.
No, sounds like there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of variables with the syndication compared to a joint venture. And What's the most misunderstood thing about you, Dustin? Would you say
The most misunderstood?
misunderstood thing about you as a founder of the company?
That's a good question, Vince. I've never got that question. So I actually have never thought about it, but I would just say in general, the communication, people don't really understand what you're trying to do. It's kind of like they hear you talking, but they don't really listen. So a lot of times when you're this is true for me and everyone else, I believe. When you're talking to people, they're not really listening to you. They don't really understand what you do until you really connect with them. That's one reason why I joined the Unblinded group, because communication is the most important thing to growing your business once you hit a certain point. So I went from thinking that I was a real estate company to understanding that I was a communications company, because we have such a good product that people knew what it was. We wouldn't have any issue with equity. Everyone would be investing in our deals because of how good they are. So, and what they provide. So we're trying to solve the affordable housing crisis with our developments.
1000%. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that know, Dustin is on a mission. When he tells you he's trying to he's trying to literally solve the problem for affordable crisis. He really is. That's like his passion. And Dustin, what's the biggest misconception people have about multifamily, or misconceptions in today's world?
That landlords are greedy and they're just out to make a buck. Especially developers. It takes so much time before you actually make a profit, and most of the benefits go to the tenant and the community. Taxes are paid, all kinds of stuff is paid. Subcontractors get paid, property managers get paid. Everyone gets paid before the developer, and then down the road a ways, the developer gets paid. If you remove the incentive for a developer, progress comes to a halt. So that being said, like when you develop real estate, it's a long-term process. And if you go to cities where there are no developers, they are some of the worst cities. Some of the nicest cities have the best developers, and some of the worst cities have no developers.
Whoa. And how do you find the gap, or how do you find the resources for those cities that don't have the good developers?
Usually the resources are there. There's just nobody willing to take the risk to build the stuff. It could be that developers have been ostracized in the past. And so if the politics aren't aligned and they make out business owners or developers to be bad people, then that can push people out. I've found there's pretty much always the resources. There's a few undesirable areas where they're just not worthy of development, but it's not very many, because there's pretty much growth everywhere in the United States.
As far as seeing that gap, is there anything else that you would change about the industry if you could, and why?
When you say industry, what do you mean? Are you talking about the real estate industry as a whole or the development industry?
Either or.
I mean, I would lower interest rates.
Who I think all of America would love that.
Yep, that's what I would do. And I would remove some of the government incentives, I guess.
Like what kind of
I would align certain incentives more. I don't think government should be involved in housing. I think private guys should be involved in housing. It should be more of a voucher system. Government should not have so much control, because they just don't know what they're doing. Every time government gets in control, it's a detriment to that community, that housing community, or that apartment community. So I would realign the incentives and have more of a voucher program. based on certain criteria of income, and then let the tenant choose what they want, and then let the landlords accept the vouchers if they want to. Too many stipulations on low income housing.
All right, makes total sense. Makes total sense. And what's the most courageous decision you've made recently, and how did it impact you?
The most what decision?
Courageous decision. I mean,
Oh,
courageous.
courageous.
Mhm.
I would say learning how to be more of a philanthropist, donating more money than I ever have before, and flipping to be more charitable my in my money, and then understanding that I'm not the one that is going to be more charitable with my time. Just understanding that I don't have as much time. I have my a resource that's more available for me is money over time.
Mhm.
And with my time, I can be more powerful, do better by donating that money back to charities versus what impact I can have with my time. So making that leap and becoming a larger donor has actually increased everything around me. So I've basically 10x'd my income off of my giving. So a lot of people say they want to give 10% of their income. Well, then that's what you'll get. You'll get whatever you give, you'll get 10x for your income. So if you take your income and give 10 or 10%, you're not going to really grow your income. I found that when I give a bunch of money the next year, my income's 10x from my charitable givings. So that taking that step and giving more than 10% has been huge for me. It's just skyrocketed my income.
Wow, having a giver's game mentality can really set you apart from the rest. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that, Dustin. And what kind of things are you giving out to, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, the biggest thing that we give to is a special education research.
Mhm.
So um, that would be like we are trying to, or we are funding a program within the local university to help the teachers understand how to teach students with neurodiverse minds. So my son has autism, so we could see it was all about how well the teacher could connect with him. And if the teacher couldn't connect with him, he couldn't really learn anything. So that's what we're doing. And then there's a lot of it would also apply to like dyslexia, um, mentally challenged, any type of neurodiverse, high anxiety. Like if you can understand these traits that are more and more prevalent in children, that's that's very necessary in being able to teach all these kids. And those rates seem to be skyrocketing compared to when I was a kid.
Yeah. We haven't seen rate hikes like this thing since like the 70s or 80s. So you're totally right on that. It's been a while since we've seen this type of cycle. And Dustin, you really have a great heart. I tip my hat off to you, and I hope you continue to manifest with the giving, and you find and you continue to make an impact with that. And you don't have to answer this question, Dustin, but how do you handle criticism or negative feedback about your work if it's ever occurred?
Well, first thing I try to say is if you don't have haters, you're not really doing anything. So if you don't have negative criticism, you're not really making an impact. That's the first thing I say. And then I say, well, is there any truth to what they're saying? And just um, see if there's any truth, and then ask a few people about it. Say, hey, this is. Don't take it personally though, right? Because whatever they said is more about what's going on with them, and not so much what's going on with me. But know that I can still be infallible and make mistakes, and so then go and get some advice from some other people that are closer to me and be like, hey, do you think that this don't don't ask them like, hey, I got this criticism, is it true? Ask them more of a question where, hey, do you think that I am blah blah blah, or do you think this is accurate? And don't frame it as it came from some criticism, because those people that are close to you might just want to protect you and be like, no, that's not true, don't worry about that guy. So those are kind of the three things that I go through, and then always try to not take it personal at the end, so that I don't just continue to ruminate on it and it doesn't bring me down. But they could be actually giving you some wisdom. So definitely don't take any of that stuff personally, and understand if you're doing things, you're gonna get the criticism. That's just how it goes.
No,
So
makes
it's a sign. It's a sign that you're a shot caller or a baller.
Nah, Dustin, I love that
Or
you.
a king and a queen, I guess. You're a king or a queen. If you're not a king or a queen, you ain't gonna get that criticism.
Hey, thanks for that inside joke. I love it. And Dustin, I'm glad you have your own system and structure for the constructive criticism. Even though you've done your 10,000 hours and you're an expert, you're still open minded and a sponge and a student of the game. So I applaud you on that. And what's like? Can you share with the public like, a story that's really memorable for you, either a success or a failure?
A story that's memorable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's so many. Can you be more specific?
What's a story that just really gave you an adrenaline rush, or a story where it resonated with you, where like that's never gonna happen again, and we're gonna break barriers next time.
Well, I got bit by a pit bull. I don't know if that's never going to happen again though, because that could actually happen again. But I was cycling through Kentucky, and I there's this massive pit bull beside me. It all of a sudden came out of nowhere because I came through this tree line, and I was biking uphill, so I was not going fast. And my brother saw it, and he's like, Dustin, pit bull. And he starts swearing because the dog was like, it was like a steroid dog that you see in the cartoons. Like, it was so huge and
It
mean
was
looking.
falling.
Yeah. And I looked down at it and I was like, oh, if I'm not scared of the dog, at this point, I was like, well, if you just put out positive vibes in the world, nothing can harm you, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, and I went down to like, be like, oh, it's okay, little Spot. Like, oh, it's fine, Spot. And that thing, when I went to touch it, it immediately lunged at me and grabbed onto my leg. And for some reason, though, it was scared and it let go. I don't know why, because no, normally a pit bull won't let go. So it clenched onto my leg, and the amount of power that I felt in that bite was insane. And it it jumped off though to bark at me, and like, because it was trying to just protect its house. The house is really close to the road. Somehow they were off leash. So I jumped off my bike and put my bike in front of me and the pit bull. And I'm like, so I start screaming so the owner would come out so the owner would hear me in the house and come out and get his dogs back. But you're never supposed to scream to a pit bull, because it actually it like amps up its adrenaline and it wants to fight even more. And then I learned another thing, because I researched pit bulls after this, that they actually get an adrenaline rush from pain. So the more pain they have, the more they like it. And so all of a sudden, when I started screaming, I saw it had a buddy.
Oh,
There's two pit bulls, and it starts running. It starts running to where its buddy is. Luckily, it was far enough away and it had to run around something. And I saw that pit bull, and I did like a superhuman feat. I could never do this. Like, the adrenaline was so spiked. I grabbed my bike, I did a 180, and I like started running, and I like jumped onto my bike, landed on the seat. My gear was low. Luckily, it was in a high gear, a low gear. I don't know how you say it. I had to pedal. It was because I was pedaling up the hill. And so when I turned around, I was pedaling so fast that my legs were moving so fast that the dogs couldn't actually grab onto anything for some reason. And I had a dog on both sides of me. And I got pedaling as fast as I could. And then I was able to, this is a road bike. So you're leaned way over. I was able to lift my legs above the handlebars and hold them above the handlebars. I don't know how, because I tried to do it later and I had no flexibility and no strength to do whatever I did. And so my legs were way up and both dogs were barking and yapping. And I started going down the hill. Actually, somehow animal control vehicle is coming up the hill. I didn't know it was animal control at the time. And so I got as close as I could to that because they started stopping because they saw the commotion. And I got as close as I could and then bumped one dog off with the dog on my left side. I bumped off with the animal control vehicle. So there was still one more. I just held my, and since I was going kind of fast this way, the dog didn't have any power to go sideways and knock me off, and it didn't know what to do. So it just chased me, but then it noticed it lost its buddy. So then it had to go back. And by then I got enough speed going down the hill. So going down the hill saved me. And then that animal control vehicle somehow saved me. But the animal control had no idea. It was pretty much worthless. It was useless. The animal control lady, she didn't have a gun or anything. She couldn't have done anything. And so, and then I just pedaled out of there as fast as I could. And so the thing I learned about that is that good vibes, in so a lot of situations, good vibes aren't going to help you. So you have to be super aware and you have to have your head on a swivel when you go into certain areas, and you just have to be more aware of what's going on. And that applies to many different areas in life.
No, it makes total sense. It makes total having self awareness and be able to do your due diligence and really process your environment. It really plays a huge role. And are you still investing in Kentucky after that store, or are you staying out of Kentucky because of that?
No, I'm not investing in Kentucky. I would though. Louisville, parts of Louisville are really nice. So I would invest in Kentucky, but I have not invested in Kentucky. We didn't end up finding any deals there. We were actually we were doing the Bourbon Trail. So we were cycling through absolute gorgeous state. I would just be more careful, and I would also bring some type of the way that the roads are there. It seems like dogs are off leash a lot, so I would bring some type of bear mace or some type of weapon with me next time if I was biking in Kentucky.
Thanks for that pro tip. Dustin. And in 2024, who or what inspires you the most in your work, would you say?
Jesus.
Wow. Why is that, would you say?
Because he's the ultimate man to ever walk the earth.
There it is.
If you can do what he did, you'll never be able to fulfill what he did or not sin like he did. But if you can just strive to be more like him every day, then you're just going to continue to only get better and help a lot more people, reach a lot more people, connect with a lot more people, inspire a lot more people.
You aspiring to be him. You're leaving greatness behind. You're truly making an impact on the world and influencing it for the better. And it switch again, going off a little topic. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Any historical figure? Wow. I'd say probably Abraham Lincoln, maybe Napoleon.
Napoleon Hill?
No, not Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Bonaparte. The French soldier.
Oh, took over
conquered. Yeah. Or maybe even Hitler, just to understand why, or to talk to him to see why he did what he did. If you could actually have an actual open conversation with him, just to ask him why he thinks so evil, or maybe one of the evil dictators, just to see why they're so evil, because I just don't understand that mindset at all. I guess there's a bunch of people. I'd say probably older though, just to understand how life was back then a little bit more. Maybe like King Tut or something. Like Egypt has always kind of fascinated me. But I don't know. I don't actually have a specific one. I don't, my mind doesn't really work that way. Like, oh, if I could meet this guy, I wish I could meet that guy. I've always thought like, I've always just more concentrated on myself and what I'm doing. So I do read a lot of history. Oh, Marcus Aurelius, probably. That's probably who.
Well, Justin, you literally have you have like a whole spectrum of people of like, and you can really see like you're looking really for the drivers behind their purpose, which I do like. Those are some great picks, I would say, great picks. And I'm going back to real estate. Say someone wants to get into multifamily or syndication. What's your advice for them starting out and being successful in the next 3 to 6 months and seeing results?
Oh, I don't know if you can be successful in real estate in 3 to 6 months. I would say start collecting information. I think real estate is a 5-year game. Um, Real estate is not an industry to make cash flow. Real estate is more an industry to take your cash flow and create generational wealth. And so a lot of people get it a little misconstrued. They think, oh, I can go buy real estate and start earning all this cash flow. It takes years to do it right. And recently, we've had a financial anomaly in the market where from 2010, after the great financial crisis, to 2022, there was massive amounts of just the profit and increased asset gains, increased values that were to be had. But that's not normal in the real estate. Real estate's more of a very passive. You just put your money in it and you let it grow with inflation, and you're going to get enough cash flow to preserve the asset so you don't have to continue to put money into it. And there are, you will get cash flow. You will get some cash flows, but that's not the primary reason to have real estate. So I would not get into real estate if you want to have immediate cash flows. The beauty about real estate is you do not have to be a genius. Now, if you want to create tons of cash flow from it, you got to be more on the genius spectrum. But you do not have to be a genius to do real estate, for it to hold, to make a snowball. And then 5 to 10 years, you really see an impact. But the first 3 to 6 months, all you should be doing is researching and seeing if you can actually understand what a deal is. I think with the internet age, though, there just aren't that many deals available for some reason. And just not a lot of deals to be had in real estate. Everyone knows kind of the value, and so it's much harder to find that deal. And usually it comes from having a relationship with someone for a long time, and they like you, so they sell you the deal under market instead of putting it on the market. So you're basically, to get a deal, you're just taking equity from someone else. So it's very rare for that really to happen these days. That's my input on it. I haven't seen a deal for probably like 6, 7 years. Now there's opportunities. There's opportunities to be had, and then 5 years from now it looks like a deal, but there's not many deals where you can buy it and then you can sell it tomorrow and make a huge profit. There's always, you got to put in some work. You got to do this value add, that value add, improve the management, or you got to develop it. If you need to develop, you could add a lot of value because you're producing a brand new asset. So that's what I'd say. 3 to 6 months. Go and find people that have done it before. Learn everything you can from them. Because if someone approached me and said, hey, I want you to mentor me, I'm going to mentor them because I just like helping people. Now, it might not be easy. I might not be like, hey, when do you want to get together? You know, it might be hard to get me to mentor you, but if you are persistent, I'll be mentoring you before too long. So find a mentor, read a lot of books, listen to the podcast, learn about syndication, learn about development, read all the books on really good developers. Read things like Think and Grow Rich and Meditations by Mark. I would just start gathering as much information as possible, improving your mindset to a growth mindset. You've got to have like a Tony Robbins style. You have to do something like that where you're learning to improve your mindset and then remove some of the stuff you've been taught as a child, because most people are taught average information, and public school is all full of average information. So if you want extraordinary information in that mindset, you got to go find it.
No, you're right. So you're really thinking outside the box. That the networking, it plays a huge role for getting those off market deals. So yeah, dude, it really you gotta really plant seeds in it, and it can all work. And you're right. I'm glad you have the long term mentality. Most people only think 3 to 6 months. You're really thinking 5, 10 years down the road, Dustin. So I congratulate you on that. And
No, thanks.
yeah, of course, of course. And what do you think is the key to maintaining a work life balance, and how do you apply it in your life?
I've heard a lot about this. I've heard there's no such thing as a work-life balance. I've heard people say, I want a work-life balance. I think the happiest people just love their work. And so they figure out how to get all their work done, and then they feel accomplished, then they can go home and they feel good at home. So then, because if you work 4 hours and you hate your work and then you come home and you're all pissed off and spreading negative vibes, that's not a good work-life balance. So you've got to accomplish stuff. Sometimes you work more than you want to work. Sometimes you get more time off. And then I'd also learn to understand what tasks are important and what tasks are urgent. Because once you get to a certain spot, like I could work all day, every day. Could work 24 hours a day, still never get everything done. So you have to understand, like, does this stuff really need to be done? Do I need to bring in someone to do this additional work? And a lot of the tasks that we do are urgent and not important. And so when you start to differentiate between the two,
Mm-hmm.
you realize that there's a lot less work that needs to be done right now.
No, yeah, your optimization with the 24 hours and really prioritizing.
Yeah.
It's funny. You're a true workhorse. You don't mind having the long nights and short years, Dustin. From what I got out of it.
Yep, that's true. I like working. I got to a point where I thought that I was working too much. I was just doing something I didn't necessarily want to do. So I I got all my time back, and then I realized that I had way too much time, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with all this time now? So I had to fill my time back up, and I realized I actually love working. I was just doing something I didn't necessarily want to do, so I pivoted into doing something I wanted to do a little more.
No, I'm glad you found something that you're passionate about, and that really gets you going. Either we love what we do, or we love who we work with, and you might be doing both of those, Dustin. So you consider yourself lucky, I would say. And
Yeah, I do both of those because I get to hire everyone and partner with who I want to partner. So
oh, you're at that point, yeah, where you get to pick and choose who you want to work with now. Whereas when you started, you were really just trying to see how to get your foot in the door. Um,
right.
what's the in 2024? What's the most challenging aspect of being in your role as a founder?
Uh, Rapid pivots. Everything is
Mm.
everything is basically or actually not rapid pivots. It's normally more rapid pivots, but everything changed so rapidly. We had to learn how to drastically pivot. So we thought interest rates are going to shoot up, and then interest rates are going to come down. Well, it's unaffordable and unsustainable to really buy and develop a lot of real estate right now. So we had to figure out, how do we develop a better product? How do we continue to do what we're doing when nothing seems to make sense. How do we make how do we make our projects pencil again? Because the costs are going up, and at the same time, rents are coming down because so much supply hit the market because of 0% interest rates. So that pivot and learning how to deal with these long-term higher interest rates after such a long period of short term, where the whole market changed into short term. Whole market went to, or not short term, it went to low interest rates. So everything, all the value was adjusted for low interest rates. Then all the market shoots up and to high interest rates, but the market is still down here. Like, oh, all our value is on this scale. How do we get to that scale? And a lot of people were just shell shocked, and they're like, well, I'll just wait. But we can't wait. We don't know how, like, waiting doesn't work for us. And I think you should always be developing and buying real estate, because you really never know when the timing is right to get the best deals. And you always think that real estate's as expensive as it's ever been, and it's never going to get more expensive. But if you look back through time, it's only going to get more expensive. The times when the market drops are just a blip in the radar compared to it's basically a linear exponential curve of always getting more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a challenge, just learning how to deal with high interest rates long term. That's been probably our biggest challenge. But then scaling at the same time. So in the biggest small level detail challenge, the detail challenge would be equity. Equity has been harder and harder and harder to raise, and this is at a time where we need more and more and more equity. So we've been building an absolute machine, and times like these are actually really good for you, because you have to really, really get your processes dialed in. So our process is now the best it's ever been, because it's been so hard to raise equity. So when the cycle turns again, we're going to have a really, really awesome machine. That's the capital's just going to pour in my opinion. That's what I see.
No, yeah, dude. You're setting yourself up for success, Dustin. You really have the self awareness where you like reverse engineer the whole process to where you're setting yourself up for success in the long term with the equity and the financing. And have you started implementing artificial intelligence into your processes or structure, or is that something that you're thinking about maybe implementing in 2025?
No, we've already started. I'm not a tech guy,
Mm-hmm.
but I've hired people that are using it, and we're starting to see it more and more. I'm trying to embrace it. Like, I don't know how to really use it much. I use it on when I'm rewriting my emails. I have it rewrite a lot of my emails, and we use ChatGPT constantly for coming up with new ideas and coming up with ways to do things. When I hear people tell me they never use ChatGPT, I almost think they're crazy. Like, how have you never used ChatGPT? If you've never used ChatGPT, either you're uber creative and you're so good at writing that you have so many ideas that you don't need it, which I've never really seen that, or you just don't understand how powerful it is. So ChatGPT is one of those things that you can replace so many people, and you can just brainstorm with ChatGPT, and it can open up so many aspects, and it can rewrite your stuff so good, so quickly, where you don't have to spend a whole bunch of time rewriting anything. You just plug it in. Oh, do you like it? Yeah, I like it, but I need it changed. Okay, boop, you can change it real quick. It will rewrite it from a different perspective. You can ask it, give me 25 ideas on what I'm supposed to post about real estate. Oh, that wasn't okay. It gives you 25 ideas. You're like, oh, those are too generic. Refine these ideas to multifamily investing. Boop, it shoots you out. Oh, refine these to 25 ideas on the tax benefits on multifamily. Boop, it shoots it out. So you can keep refining. So anytime you hit a mental block, you should be able to use ChatGPT to help you out. And so it doesn't even have to eliminate jobs. What it can do is make everyone on your team way more efficient, especially if you're doing any type of marketing, any type of social media, all these, which is mostly what everyone's doing nowadays, in my opinion. If you're not doing physical labor and you're reaching out to people and you're trying to get creative, like you can have ChatGPT write you scripts. So this can get you past these mental blocks. Not saying you should just use the script, like the entire script, but you can use it to get you started and you can build a framework with it. Or you can build a framework and put the framework in and it'll detail out your framework. So no matter what your issue is, it can help you get past that issue. And it's immediate too. It's like boom.
No, you're totally right. It's almost instantaneous. Whenever you ask something, it just starts spitting it out. And like the way you're right, the way you prompt things, the way you want it to be prompted, and you can fine tune it to where it can spit out what you want, what you need to move forward. And you aside from that, what other personal goals do you have for yourself for these next 5 to 10 years, Dustin?
Personal goals: private jet, house in Naples, own a house in Naples. Way more philanthropic giving. So probably create a fund of some sort or a foundation. Actually bumped into someone at the Unblinded conference that's gonna look at helping us start a foundation. He should be interesting to talk to. He's a tax guy. So he opened my eyes to another, like I think I know all the tax. Well, I don't think I know, but I'm like, wow, I know a lot about taxes. And I meet a guy that talking about foundations. And I was like, oh, I thought foundations were just for like universities and stuff. Nope. You can start your own foundation and here's all the benefits. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I've never heard of a foundation, the structure of them. I mean, I've heard of a foundation. I've just never really thought it applied to me. So I learned about that. So I'd want to do something like that. And then, just mainly more, how can I help certain communities, mainly the autistic, how can I provide more stuff for the autistic community, just because I'm close to that. And then just for me personally, it's just private jet so I can fly around and create these communities, create these affordable housing communities all around the nation. Flying commercial would be horribly inefficient. So, and plus, no one likes to fly commercial. But it's more about like like if you show up to an area after you get off your private jet versus after you've been on a commercial airline, your mindset is in a totally different spot. So you want to bring the energy and bring the positivity. Well, one of the things that zaps my positivity and energy the most is going through the whole boarding process and sitting on a plane and going through security. That whole herding of the cattle through the gates thing zaps me. So in order for me to do what I really want to do, I kind of need a private jet. Or at least be able to lease one. But if I'm leasing one once a week, then you might as well buy one.
No, you should buy one, Dustin. The tax book is 74,000 pages. Believe it or not, writing off the private jet actually becomes profitable after a while. So I believe I might be mistaken though. I think they are updating that rule, and it might be implemented in the next year or two. So maybe you might be able to be grandfathered into that. You might speak to that tax guy. They'll probably know better. And and I'm glad you found the vehicle foundation and how that can really just attain the vision or the goals that you want to manifest. And I hope you do make an impact in the autistic book, because you are really bringing. I know that's close to your heart, and I'm sure there's other families that resonate with that too. And Dustin, is there any favorite book, podcast, or article that's had a significant impact on your life or work?
Yeah, the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius has had a huge impact. That's like one of the first books I read that flipped my mindset. And then the Bible's super important. So the Bible's my favorite book now. I read that all the time, but sometimes people need more of a normal language book or maybe people have read the Bible a lot already. I think the Bible has everything you need to know about life. It's just so dense and complex and hard to understand. It takes years of really reading the Bible to get a lot out of it. Unless God just gives you the grace to understand the Bible right away, which some people he does that too. Me, I did not get that gift, but Meditations by Marcus Aurelius instantly flipped my whole mindset around to just understand that the world is what it is, and you just need to accept it and make the best of it and not be so reactive and be more of a stoic. Like, you have to be a stoic in business, and so many life lessons in that book. I mean, because he was the emperor, so he had the most power in the world at the time, Roman emperor. So and he even had such a positive, growth-minded mindset compared to anyone around him. Like, the stuff he was writing had never really been even. If people knew about it, it wasn't really written down or shared, and for surely not by as powerful a person as him. Like, he could do whatever he wanted to do, and he always turned the other cheek.
No, it's funny how some people can be so insightful and know all those gems. And yeah, I forgot to mention, yeah, you hopping off that jet, that does produce like Zeus energy. You're just fun and aspirational of getting you in a different mentality. And in the Bible, yeah, that's like you really like you get to internalize it differently every time you do read it, because you might be in a different part in your life or your journey where it just hits different every time you read it. And Dustin, have you ever? This is a little bit off topic, but have you ever been driving or like on your phone or watching TV and thought to yourself, if I wasn't in real estate, I could probably be successful at this. What's another field or career that you think you would have liked to partake in, and if it wasn't real estate?
Architecture, I used to think so, but then the more I look into architecture, the more it's all about just codes, like fitting this in with this certain code. Dude, if you take me away from real estate, I was just born to do real estate. So I do think about that, and I have never come up with something that I would want to do.
No worries at all. No worries at all, Dustin. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. So I'm glad you found real estate, and I'm glad real estate found you.
I would say I could be a mindset coach. That's what I could be, is a mindset coach. But my problem is communication. I don't understand how to communicate what I know to people so that it hits people that are in the growth mindset. Like, you're already growth mindset, so you can learn from me. But if you're not open-minded in the growth mindset, my stuff just doesn't even make any sense. It just sounds all like philosophy, or like that's just a bunch of BS. So if that, I would like to be a mindset coach. That would be the only thing that I would know, except for I would have to learn how to communicate all these different aspects. That's my struggle.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. No, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you could find ways where it could be applicable. Being a mindset coach of like being pragmatic, because as you know, most people are very scared of the unknown, or they have a fear of like there's like 3 reasons why they don't move forward, and then and it also it's kind of hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So get into that mindset of being open minded and just wanting to dabble. That really can be the missing factor, or the final piece to other people's puzzle. So that does play a role in today's society. And Dustin, do you wish you would have received? Is there any piece of advice you wish you had received early in your career that could have changed your whole trajectory or been a catalyst in your journey?
Yeah, I wish I would have understood how to scale sooner. I'd be 10 years ahead had I known that.
No, that makes.
But everything happens for a reason. Maybe I wasn't ready for that information. Maybe I needed some hard lessons. So I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. yeah, you need a lot of education to grow. Some people are hard-headed and stubborn. I was very stubborn at first. I thought I knew everything, kind of a mindset. Um, the more open-minded you become, the more you don't really know anything, and the more that you really aren't in control of anything. God's in control of everything, and you're just doing God's will. So just knowing and I needed a lot of hard lessons to understand that. So just by nature. So I don't know. I think that's what I'd say though. That's the one thing I'd say: learn how to scale. If you can understand how to scale and what truly scale means, where it means usually it's going deeper into your niche and not switch tasking so much. If you can figure out how to do that, that's where growth lies.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, once you like the mastery of process, once you get that down, you can definitely I'm sure it gets more lucrative, and once you're coming from a place of good, and but yeah, you're totally right. Sometimes everything does happen for a reason, and hey, it is what it is. You just have to make best with what you have and be a champion and keep powering through. And how many times do you underwrite a deal? And is it the same for 20 doors and 100 doors, or is it a little bit more more due diligence for the bigger deals?
Um, well, so I mean, you underwrite the deal once, oh, does this work? And then if it works, then you just go deeper into it. I'm not the actual underwriter on my team. I can usually see if I like the deal right away. Um, Sometimes some stuff comes up and you're like, oh, never mind, that deal's not going to work. So it's more of a process for me. So let's say we get a deal and it's a beautiful piece of land, perfect, good price, and then we get the soil report back and oh, it has contaminated soil. Well, never mind. We're not going to deal with that. And if you do, you got to go back to the owner and be like, hey, this has contaminated soil. It's worth a quarter, 25% of what you think it's worth. They're not even probably going to accept that deal. So deals, in my opinion, you underwrite them to try. You're trying to get rid of the deal. You're like, why doesn't this deal work? Why doesn't this deal work? Why doesn't this? And you find the reason why it doesn't work, and then you move on. Most deals go right in the trash. So like you're going to underwrite 1 to 2 to 300 deals before you find one. In this year, I think I don't even know if there is a deal. So I think you're just underwriting for practice. And if you get super, super lucky, it's always, in my opinion, it's always come from my connections. The reason why I get a deal is it comes from my connections. So I'm working on a deal now that the only reason I'm getting the deal is because it's a government loan. And the government loan has locked them in for 20 more years. So and you can't get out of this government contract because it's a government contract tied to the government loan. But once you sign the government loan, you're in it for 50 years. And the state of affordable housing 30 years ago is way different than it is now. And then so much inflation has happened, and the government hasn't been able to keep up. They have been able to keep up on our taxes. They know how to do that, but they don't know how to keep up on how much we can charge. So this deal is basically worthless, but it's worth, close to $10 million. So I'm just going to basically get gifted this thing because they want to get out of it. And if they sell it, they're going to take a huge tax hit. So I'm figuring a way how to get this deal, put it in my foundation or my trust, and then hand it to my kids in 20 years. It'll run itself. I won't have to do anything for 20 years. Basically, it's a free deal just because my reputation and I built up rapport with this person, and they get more and more and more sick of operating this deal by the day. They've already made a ton of money on it. They have more money than they need. They want it to stay with a local operator in town so that it gets taken care of, but they don't care about the money. And they know that they can't capture the money anyways. So we're basically going to take over this deal. And it's not like a deal because I can't get rid of it anytime soon. I got to run it for 20 years. But as soon as that loan pops off, it'll be like probably a $20 to $50 million asset for my kids. And it's just lining up different pieces of paperwork. And I'll even have someone else manage it. I won't have to self-manage. So to me, that's how you kind of get a deal in this day and age. But so we underwrite deals constantly, and it's only just to see where the market is right now, because we just feel there's very, very few deals. We're starting to get some distressed deals. Those are few and far between. But yeah, we're underwriting a lot, and we're underwriting with the exception that we're trying to find why it's not a good deal, because we just don't think there's much out there right now. There's stuff coming, supposedly.
Yeah, hopefully you get new inventory and you can find a gem in there. And yeah, you really are doing your due diligence. And I'm glad you have that network where you can get those off market deals a lot easier. Is assuming loans a better strategy in 2024, or majority of your deals syndicate with financing? You ever assume loans?
Well, most of my deals are development deals, so there's nothing to assume. So we create the deal, and right in 2024, I think that's the best method. That's why you're seeing a lot of people starting to develop. A lot of syndicators, though, are just completely getting out of the industry because it's so challenging. And they were in it during the boom times, so it's not really boom times in real estate, and it probably won't be for a while. So if you were just in it for a quick buck, you're going to pivot out. And I've seen a lot of people pivoting out already and buying businesses and different things like that. There's way more money in buying businesses if you want to buy businesses right now. What was the question?
You bring up good. It was just if it was better to assume.
Sorry, assumable debt. Yeah, we've assumed one HUD loan. Yeah, depends on the project. But if you can assume a loan and the numbers work, great. But what I've found on those assumable loans is you got to bring in like at least 50% equity. So that's kind of tough. But you're bringing in 35% equity on a regular deal, so it's only 15% more. It's just you got to raise more equity to assume a loan, and raising equity is harder than ever. That dilutes the returns. Now, instead of, it used to be 20% ownership, 80% debt. Now it's 50% ownership, 50% debt. That's just a lot more people you have to share the profits with. And the power of real estate comes in sharing the profits through leverage. So if you're only 1-to-1 on your leverage, real estate's not near as good. But it does allow you to do a very risk-averse deal. If you get 3% HUD money locked in for 30 years or 12 years or whatever it is, you're gonna be fine. The inflation that's coming is gonna make that debt look like nothing.
No, it makes total sense. I got 4 more questions for you. Let's try to go through them real fast. For every new deal, are you creating a new LLC for it, or do you just put them all under one parent company?
New LLC every deal.
All right, there it is.
And then never commingle funds. You start commingling funds and sending money from this deal to that deal. You have to send money down. I'm not sure how it works totally because we don't actually do that. But you never want to send money. If you ever commingle, send money to this deal, to this deal, to this deal, then they say, well, these are all technically one LLC. Pierce the veil. So you have to be careful with taking capital and injecting capital. And you definitely want to make sure you've got a tax person on your side that understands that structure.
No, you're totally right. You're totally right, Dusten. And after you get the financing and the building's complete, are you the one who finds a certified property manager, or who finds the property manager for it?
We do. Okay. Our team does. We have. I know a lot of property managers, so I have a lot of contacts with property managers. So yeah, I'm very involved with. Actually, almost all of our property managers, I'm the one that found them. So yeah, I guess I do find them. I'm not the one that hires them. I don't really necessarily hire most people. I say, hey, this is a good fit. This is a good fit. And the people that are more process oriented go through the process of hiring them.
Nice. And do you have the property managers usually living on site, or do you let them commute from wherever they have to commute from?
No, they don't. I don't have any property managers living on site. That's kind of an old school thing. All right. I mean, some of them will end up renting from us because they like our product, but it's not because they're living on site. No.
All right. Then, Dustin, I greatly appreciate you sharing your time with me today. As you know, I'm a human. I might rewatch this when I'm really old. Is there any life message you want to leave with me, by chance?
Make sure you find Jesus. That's the one. That's the most important, in my opinion.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough, Dustin. I'll remember that one. And my final question to you is, what legacy do you want to leave behind when it's all said and done?
I don't really care. I just want to create generational wealth for my kids, or for anyone underneath me, just because that seems very challenging. I don't know anyone that did it. From where I'm from, I've already created sort of a legacy compared to anyone else in my family. So, not trying to brag or anything, but people have just made comments to me about certain stuff. I don't let that stuff get to my head at all, though. It doesn't really affect me because I just want to be content and have joy at the end of the day. And that's why Jesus is so important. But I think I'll just, when I'm dead, I'm dead, and you throw me in a cardboard box. I don't really care about that stuff.
Yeah, I love it, Dustin. I love it. Hey, you leave your legacy. I hope you manifest and you get to find happiness and fulfillment in this thing called life. I greatly appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard from a king representing South Dakota. Dustin, how do you like people getting in contact with you?
Any way they want. On LinkedIn, I have a pretty visible profile. Mailboxmoneyre.com is our website that has access to all the different ways you can contact us. You can text me on my phone. It might be easier and more reliable to go through the funnels, but I still see all my texts. So if you text me at 605-691-1933, I should be available. I should see it, but the most reliable way is to go through our capture system where you enter your info. That way, multiple people see it, and you'll for surely get a return call, and then someone can set up a conversation with me. But you might text me, and if you leave me an interesting message, not spam me, I might say, "Oh, hey, how's it going, dude?" If you say, "Hey, I heard your podcast. I'm interested in you mentoring me," that's going to be a very interesting message for me.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Dustin, joyfully extending an opportunity to you. If you're still listening, reach out to Dustin, and he could potentially change your whole life. Dustin, thanks again. Is it fine if we stay on the call 1 or 2 minutes after I end this?
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Vincent. Appreciate it.